Hello, welcome to Postcolonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and today I'll be talking yet again about postcolonialism. Recently, someone had posted a question on one of my videos because they had interviewed for a PhD, admission, and someone on the admission committee told them postcolonialism is over. We are now in the phase of neocolonialism, and they weren't sure what it meant. So as I've been kind of saying throughout in my basic videos about postcolonialism, that a question like that or a statement like that stems from several things, but two of them are important to keep in mind. One, of course, is that person making a statement like that is completely ill-informed and has made postcolonialism into something that it is not, it has never claimed to be. And two, it also comes from a place of prejudice and anxiety. So the post in postcolonialism was never meant to suggest or say that colonialism or its ramifications or impact is over. I have thrown this challenge before to some of my former colleagues, but also anyone else in this world, is find me one scholar of postcolonialism who calls themselves a postcolonialist, who has said in writing or in public that the post in postcolonialism means that colonialism is over. I mean, the term got accepted early on in the mid-80s and early 90s, and you can watch my lectures on Ella Shoat especially, where it's pretty obvious that the reason it got accepted in the American Academy was because it was less threatening, right? If people had tried to propose anti-imperialism or anti-American imperialism as a field of study, obviously it would have not made it through the administrative channels. So postcolonialism, because of the misreading involved in it, became a more fluid term and hence more acceptable. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the work that people do in postcolonial studies is any less radical. So when in an interview kind of situation, a professor or someone on the committee tells you, you can't study postcolonialism, it's over, obviously, because of the power dynamic there, you cannot debate them, right? Because they have the power whether to accept you or not. So I would suggest find a way of talking to them. Or if they say it's over and now we are in decoloniality, fine. You can still do the same stuff that postcolonial scholars do. But as I said, there is always this misrecognition involved in declaring that postcolonialism is done. Coming from the point of view of the people who feel threatened by it, I mean, these are people who are traditional scholars. These are people who have a traditional view of what constitutes literary studies. Maybe they are Eurocentric, maybe they are Americocentric. So for them, giving the same significance to texts from Africa and Asia is kind of a threatening thing because it is impinging on what they've traditionally considered the domain of literary studies. And then their anxieties and fears are expressed in so many different ways. Sometimes it is simply, oh, you guys are too political. Literature ought to be about literature. Or you're too worried about contemporary issues. That's not what we do in literature departments. All of those things have been said to me or implied. And they come from that deep anxiety about people who traditionally held sway in literature departments, and slowly women have moved into it. minorities have moved into it, post-colonialist, African-American, ethnic lit people. And we are competing for the same thing, right? What is literary studies? So those anxieties are expressed in these ways. Another more dangerous trend, and which I think is unfortunate, which is emerging, is the way people are defining decolonial studies. I have nothing against using indigenous knowledge, absolutely nothing. I have nothing against devising new modes of thinking against the instrumental logic of the capital. Now, most of the decolonial projects originally stem from, Walter Manvolo's thought. And if you read Manvolo carefully, he never really defines it. All he's saying is that the instrumental logic that is employed in the West is destructive. We need to go and retrieve other modes of thinking the world. That is the basic assumption. But I don't think so. He suggests that in retrieving those other modes, we need to jettison whatever is available to us. So as a result, then, decolonial thought as it is being practiced in so many different parts of the world has become a total denial of Western thought, right? And supplanting it or replacing it what is considered indigenous modes of doing things. And that is what postcolonialism always suggested and has done, right? My personal take on it is that knowledge, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If you incorporate it with the indigenous knowledge and construct something new, something hybrid, then you have made it more revolutionary, right? Then you have made it more transformative. And postcolonialism very easily can do that, has done that. So critiques of postcolonialism, valid critiques. If it's too post-structuralist, too esoteric, the Marxist will tell you it has no practical value, right? But by and large, postcolonialism itself is not a monolithic field. It depends on what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on women's rights? Are you focusing on indigenous rights, minority rights, right? Are you a leftist who is critiquing what capitalism is doing in the world? So whenever someone confines the term postcolonialism to one or two tropes, they are simplifying the term so that it becomes easier to challenge it or attack it. That's why I'm always perplexed when someone says, I'm going to do a post-colonial reading of this novel. And my question always is, which post-colonial reading? Where are you going to come from? From a feminist post-colonial perspective, from a materialistic post-colonial perspective, from a textual studies post-colonial perspective, because at the end of the day, what brings the field together isn't that there is one way of thinking the world. But what brings it together is that you're dealing with issues of power. You're dealing with what happened during the contact phase of colonialism, and you can write about that. What kind of world existed before colonialism? You can write about that. What kind of the world could have existed had colonialism not happened, right? And what's happening now? What are the colonizing strategies of the dominant countries, even though they are physically may not be controlling you, right? All of this, that's the beauty of the term post-colonialism, is covered and can be covered in post-colonial studies. So the future lies in not suggesting that post-colonialism is over and we have moved on. Because what then you're saying is all this work that people have done, brilliant writings, right, are no longer valid, right? A more productive way is to build on that and say, here, we are going into decolonial thought. We'll take these thoughts from here and apply them there. That way you constantly keep reinvigorating the field of study itself and keep doing transformative revolutionary work. So, going back to the question that was posed to you, is postcolonialism is over, you can't study anymore. If the people are willing to talk about it and would let you convince them, then, just ask them, okay, what do you suggest in return? What should I study? What should I do? And chances are their explanation will tell you that that is one facet of postcolonial studies itself. But for your own reference, never simplify the term. It has never assumed that post in postcolonialism means colonialism is over, nor is it only about studying what comes after colonialism. It is not a monolithic field. There is no post-colonial theory that just can be applied to anything. There are different branches of it, and you will have to choose which one do you want to use. And it has the expansive structure to incorporate what other thought is emerging: decolonial studies, indigenous studies, settler colonialism, all can be studied under the general rubric of postcolonial studies. So these are just some of the thoughts. I thought I should share these and hope these are useful to you. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have had any such experiences with people who've tried to tell you that this is exactly what postcolonialism means, and I would love to hear your views. As always, stay safe, take care of each other, and pass these videos on to others so that they can also benefit from it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We have now reached 30,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. And if you feel like supporting the channel, there are several ways of supporting me and my work. Feel free to do so. Thank you so much. I will now see you next time. Until then, as always, peace and love.